How's it going today, everybody? It's Peter here. Welcome back to another video. Today's video, we're going to be breaking down some footage I took from a recent trip at a small lake that fishes very, very tough. It's not a lake that's known for huge numbers of fish, but it is somewhere that I feel fairly confident that if I dedicate my time and energy there, I will be able to catch a little bit larger than average fish. Hopefully track down one of those real lunkers that I'm after. But in this video, I catch a few fish on a crankbait, and the way I was catching them was fairly unique. The water was super, super cold, and it required repetitive casts, the same piece of structure that I'd identified as holding a lot of fish, in order to trigger a bite. And you'll see that in the video. It really takes a lot of time to pick apart this small area, this small transition bank that I'd found. And in the footage, I'll describe a little bit more about what I'm doing, but it's a very small spot. That I identified a few active feeding fish, and really the key with this success on the water that day was to really break down that area into small pieces and identify each piece of structure and the sweet spots where fish would be located around those pieces of structure, and then making multiple presentations with the crankbait at different angles in order to trigger a bite. So hopefully you find the video informative. I know there's a lot of good details to pay attention to in there, so hopefully you enjoy and you learn a thing or two. Let's go out to the lake.
So here we are out at the lake, and obviously it's very foggy out. This video probably began about 9:30 in the morning, and the fog had not burned off really at all at this point. The air temperature is in the mid to high 40s, probably about 46, 47 degrees, and the water temperature is slightly cooler at about 45 or so. This is my first pass through this section of water, so I'm sort of just making general casts around targets, usual sort of stumps, logs, small brush piles, and obviously that big dilapidated dock you see behind me there. Plenty of structure in the water here, and I'm basically just making a quick pass through here, trying to identify if there are any active feeding fish, and see if I can trigger one to come up and eat the crankbait.
In the video here, it looks like the fish comes off, but this is actually the anti-reverse on my reel failing. It's a nice chunky little one. Ate the square bill off a little piece of wood up shallow. Not bad, probably a pound and a quarter, pound and a half. Get him back. After landing that fish, I realized my reel was pretty much toast, so I took a reel off another rod and kept on fishing. Oftentimes in cold weather, especially in the wintertime, if you get a bite off a spot, there's a good reason that fish is there, whether it's for a sense of security, close access to deep water, or because there's food in the area. So I really decided to spend some time to hunker down here and see if I could generate another bite. Notice how many casts I take to this particular piece of cover before a strike is generated from this fish. I lose one right off the bat, of course, and then it takes quite a number of casts at different angles with different retrieve speeds to get the next fish to commit. many casts did that take? Think about that. It took me like probably a dozen casts to that same piece of cover before that one got it. Nice. There we go. Pretty decent fish. Ate that crankbait sideways, love it. 15 1/4, same length as the last one. Last one was like 15 on the dot, this one's 15 1/4. Last one was 1.60, I bet this one weighs a little more. They are twins though. Yeah, 178. Nice little fish. Another little one. You got it good though. Look how he ate that. That's awesome. That one's 14 inches, 1.16. Little guy. Back he goes. So here's where the big fish of the day comes, and it's actually on a strange cast. I actually take a cast through water that I've already fished really thoroughly. I'd sort of moved past my usual spot, and I'd take a long cast over a brush pile that I'd already fished, and was rewarded with the best fish of the day. Big fish, big fish. There we go. Big one. Come on, don't come off. Big fish. You come to the lake for. Come on. Don't come off. Don't come off. I don't know, my net with me today, which sucks. It's a good one. Come on, don't do it. Don't come off. Don't come off. Don't do it. Don't do it. Alright. We can get her. We can get her. Here we go. Nice. Fish. Not a giant, but that's more like it. Yeah, and they're eating it well too. Look at that. Whew. That's fun. Man, she came right off super easily. Probably 30.5 pounder, but man, it feels a lot better after catching like little pound and a halfers. Let's see what she weighs. I bet she's 3.5. Yeah, 392. Just shy of 4. What a nice bass. Just want to give you a quick look at the setup I was using to catch these fish. This is a Powell diesel cranking rod, which I don't believe is made anymore. It's a 7-foot glass rod, so it's a medium action, fairly whippy, fairly bendy. I love the glass rod for the flexibility. Just went up with a treble hook bait. It's really nice to have a glass rod, especially when it's something that you're winding along, because when that fish comes up behind the bait or latches onto it, it's really nice to have that sort of springy action that allows you to
not rip the trebles out of the fish's mouth as he's sort of coming up behind it. Allows the fish to sort of get a better hold of the bait. Anyways, yeah, this is a rod I've had forever. It's a cheap little rod, but I love it. Caught some giant fish on it. Great little whippy, super bendy crankbait rod. Awesome square bill setup. I use probably lighter line than most people. I know there's like no line on this reel at the moment. I had to tear a bunch off the other day. I use lighter line than most folks do with a square bill. Some people might think it's a little silly of me when I'm around, some big southern fish, but I use 10-pound line. I don't know, I'm gonna jinx myself, but I don't know that I've ever really broken too many fish off cranking. Usually set the drag pretty loose and fight those fish nice and cautiously with the treble hooks so you don't rip them out or whatever. Most folks might go 12 or higher even, but I'm a 10-pound fan. It allows my crankbait just to dive a little bit deeper. And I'm yet to really have too many experiences that would convince me that I need to bump up to heavier line, but maybe that day will come. The bait I was throwing is a KVD 1.5. It's the new hard knock bait from KVD, Strike King rather. Sweet little bait, the classic 1.5 profile. Awesome bait to just kind of bomb around these little shallow pieces of cover that I was fishing. And that hard knock shows up really nicely in the dirty water. Those fish really get a sense of it. And I figured it's a new bait on the market. Maybe not a ton of folks are throwing it on the particular spot I was fishing, so thought I'd give them a little different look. I really like this bluegill color. It's very natural, but it's got good flash to it. You can kind of tell if I move the camera around. There's a little bit of shimmer in that gold, some faint stripes, just a really natural bluegill pattern, and a bait I'm finding a lot of success with. So that's the setup I used, and yeah, aside from maybe using some heavier line, otherwise I could really recommend this setup for pretty much any shallow water cranking scenario.
Thanks so much for taking the time to look at the video today. I hope you learned a thing or two about how I was catching those fish on a crankbait, and perhaps the importance of making multiple presentations to a small piece of cover when you're confident that there are fish in the area. So maybe that's something you could apply to a cold water situation that you face sometime down the road, and hopefully you'll catch a few more fish. So tight lines, we'll see you around.